Hey guys, Minish Cap 1 here. I'm going to be doing another patch notes rundown. If you're unfamiliar with this, my patch note rundowns are from the perspective of a top lane main and from the perspective of a singed main, because no one else, or I don't know, I feel like there's not a lot of top lane like opinion stuff out there, and I want to try and get that out there and make people like, or not make people, but like help people see things from a top lane perspective, and to a lesser degree a Singe perspective, because this is a Singe channel. So yeah. Overall, patch 7.3 looks pretty good. Let's hop right into it. Champions, Camille. Camille, really oppressive champion overall. She just does way too many things too well. I've talked about it before, but her kit is really overloaded. She has a ton of options. So what are they doing to Camille? Q empowered damage down, W slow and E stun decreased, E attack speed only granted if a champion's hit. Okay, so the Q nerf is going to take away some of her late game scaling, but her Q will still be pretty strong. W tactical sweep. If she hits the slow, it now decays over the duration instead of just being full value for the whole duration. And the slow is going down to 80%. That's fair. A 90% slow for the full duration was fucking ridiculous, and so I'm glad that they're nerfing this ability. There's no reason that this ability should heal her, but yeah, I mean, whatever. It's whatever. Riot's gonna Camille is like their child, I think, so they don't want to like nerf her too much. E hookshot costs 50 to 70 mana, stun duration 1 second to 0.75 seconds, and it's now only granted if Camille hits enemy champion. So this is good. A 20 mana cost increase is pretty big for a champion whose only mana item is going to be a Shane, and the stun duration being from 1 to 0.75 is also pretty fair. I think a 1 second stun for hitting such an easy ability is ridiculous. Attack speed is now only granted if Camille hits an enemy champion, which is good. So if you're an AD carry and Camille like tries to jump onto you and she misses this, she doesn't get that stupid bullshit attack speed anymore. There's a chance that you might actually be able to fucking fight her inside of her ultimate, and win, which is fair. R, the Hex Tech Ultimatum, no longer persists for its full remaining duration after Camille dies, now dissipates within 1 second after Camille dies. I think it should disappear instantly because it's such a powerful ability, but if you consider things like Jarvan's ult, it stays after he dies for a little bit, so yeah, this is whatever. But I'm glad that they're just taking some power away from her overall, because her abilities are all fucking strong overall, so I'm glad this is happening. As far as top lane goes, it'll open up a few more picks. You'll probably see more freedom in top lane in regards to picks, because I don't think that Camille will be ban material for that much longer, and if she is, this will probably be the last patch. One more nerf and she won't be ban material anymore. But personally, I think that she might not be ban material after this patch. Just my opinion. We'll see what happens. As far as Camille versus Singed goes, pretty easy lane matchup. It can go both ways, but she absolutely wins in the late game. She just dumpsters in late game, so you gotta be really careful late game if you let it get to late game. Ivern, Daisy no longer regenerates her health and is also less tanky. So the thing about Daisy, which is his ultimate by the way, she's just a giant knockup bot that you can't kill. So what this is aiming to do is making it so that she doesn't regenerate when she leaves combat, and her armor and MR are going down. So she's gonna be a little bit easier to take down, and once you kill her, that annoying like permanent knockup is gonna go away. Daisy brings Ivern so much ridiculous crowd control. Like, he already has decent crowd control with his Q and his E, but Daisy just like is icing on the cake. She knocks up every so often, just over and over and over, and you can't kill her, so she keeps knocking you out for the entire fight. And if you do take the time to kill her, it takes way too long to kill her. So I think this means that she'll probably die a little bit easier to just like AoE damage, which is good. It needs to be that, because this ability is very oppressive, especially if you're a melee champion. You just get knocked up over and over and over. There's not much that you can do. So this is good. This is good. He's gonna be a little bit less ridiculous. Top lane Ivern is not a thing. Cinder versus Ivern doesn't really matter. Let's go on to Jayce. Thank God they are finally nerfing Jayce a little bit. So this change right here, where they gave Hammerstand his form change, AD ratio, basically gave him an entire extra ability. Because that ability didn't give him bonus damage before. All it did was whenever you changed into hammer form, it'd give you a little bit of a nuke, and whenever, or like a magic damage nuke, and whenever you changed it into range form, it used to give you like an auto attack debuff on them to take away a little bit of armor and MR. But then they went and gave it a they gave it so that whenever you change into your hammer stance, they made it so that you got a 0.4 bonus AD ratio. That made him fucking ridiculous. Gave him an entire extra ability to do damage with. And so on top of that, what else are they doing? They're nerfing the Q damage, which is fine. His all-in potential as melee is fucking ridiculous, and they're nerfing the E mana cost. So it looks like they're targeting his hammer form a lot. They want his ranged ability. They want his range to be pretty strong, but they don't want but they don't think that his melee should be as strong as it is, which is fine. His melee is fucking ridiculous. It does way too much damage in my opinion. The E mana cost is fine. I think the mana cost nerf is fine. With mana cost in League of Legends being the way they are, mana costs aren't really an issue for the vast majority of champions who have like very low mana costs and very high mana pools and very high mana regen. So yeah, this is a fair nerf. Basically just means that if he's super low mana and wants to disengage with E, there's a chance that he probably won't be able to do it, which is fair, because if you're that low mana, you probably shouldn't be able to disengage. Good changes overall. I'm really happy that they're finally nerfing Jayce. The lethality patch really pushed him over the edge. The lethality patch made him fucking crazy. So top lane, as far as top lane goes, Jayce is very, very, very oppressive. That's why Jayce is the reason why you don't see things like Jax and you don't see things like Aurelia. He's also the reason why you don't see things like just a lot of like farming top laners that need to scale. Fiora and Camille being the two big exceptions, because they can actually survive versus Jayce, and they can scale a lot faster than other late game champions, and they can just destroy. They can just destroy, and they can sustain, and they don't have to worry as much about this about Jayce. But other champions really, really, really do, especially Jax. Jax being a really big one. Riven being another one that gets shit on by Jayce. So they'll be pretty happy about that. As far as Singed goes, thank God they're nerfing Jayce. He is one of the hardest matchups for Singed. Not the hardest matchup, but still a very hard matchup. I'm pretty happy about this. Alright, Kha'Zix. Q ratio down, evolved Q cooldown refund, and isolator targets down. So a while back, they made it so that whenever you evolved his Q, you got a 60% cooldown reduction, or cooldown refund on his empowered Q. They're changing that to 45%, and they're nerfing the AD ratio from 1.4 to 1.2. Basically, the lethality patch made Kha'Zix fucking ridiculous. Lethality items are so strong on him. He just runs around fucking one-shotting everything, and if he doesn't one-shot you, he fucking two-shots you with 2 Qs. If you ever fight Kha'Zix alone, yeah, you probably should lose. And honestly, after this nerf, you probably will still lose to a Kha'Zix if you fight him alone. But this is like, he has to fight you alone a little bit more now. Like, he probably will still be able to one-shot you if he's fed, even if you're with your team. But this change just makes it so that what they're trying to do is they're trying to keep it so that he still has his win condition, where if you're alone, he beats you. But if you're with your team, it should be a little bit less crazy. They're trying to make his sustained damage a little bit less insane, because, like, I don't know, I don't feel like Kha'Zix should have sustained damage, but the Q change helps him like clear the jungle and shit. So I mean, I don't know. I think he's still gonna be a little bit OP personally, but he'll be a little bit easier to deal with. Because with Kha'Zix, you can just get to level 6 and then just go Q the dragon like 10 times in 10 seconds and it's dead. You get a free dragon. You can do the same thing with Scuttle Crabs. You can do the same thing with Baron. If you have one person to tank for you, just Q Baron a few times and it's dead, because you do it so quickly, right? As far as top lane goes, top lane Kha'Zix is not going to be a thing ever since they nerfed the sustain on his W. And it doesn't really matter as far as Singed is concerned. But yeah, that doesn't matter. LeBlanc. Okay. The thing about LeBlanc is they made her... LeBlanc is an assassin that is really good in the early mid game, right? And she still scales pretty well. Well, LeBlanc is an assassin that was really good in the early mid game. What the assassin rework did was they gave her early game wave clear, which is fucking crazy. Whenever you give a very oppressive champion like this wave clear, it just means that they can oppress and they can push their advantage even harder. They can do everything that they want to do, because they don't have to worry about like fucking with creep waves. They just kill the creep wave instantly, and they can do whatever they want. They can push, they can roam, they can all in, they can just do anything they want to do. So what are they doing here? They're nerfing the damage significantly on her passive from 1 through 6, and then they're nerfing it a little bit more from 7 to 13, and then they're keeping it the same at 14 to 18. So yeah, they're just taking away her wave clear. Moving on, I think it's a fair nerf. LeBlanc is fucking crazy. I think it's a fair nerf. Moving on. Okay, Malzahar. This is probably targeted at support Malzahar specifically. Voidlings are slower if they stray from Malzahar and have a small delay before spawning. W has a cooldown between casts. Okay, so what they're doing here is... excuse me, I'm yawning. So what they're doing here is making it so that whenever you put a Voidling down, there's a 0.35 second delay, and they're putting a cooldown between your 2 charges, because the Voidling W has 2 charges, right? So what they're doing is they're making a cooldown between the charges of 1 second, and they're making it have a delay of 0.35, meaning that he's just a little bit more predictable and a lot less annoying to deal with. You can just like walk away now because it's gonna be super telegraphed. He's gonna fucking fling his arms around, and you can just walk away because you're gonna be able to see the Voidlings coming, right? Okay, new past 600 distance, Voidlings move 10% more slowly for every 100 additional distance farther they are from Malzahar. So now Malzahar also has to stay closer. This is kind of annoying. He has to stay closer to them so that he can actually keep the Voidling damage bonus. This is annoying because this is just hurting. This is just hurting like mid lane and jungle Malzahar more than it's probably gonna hurt support Malzahar, because you know what's gonna happen to support Malzahar? No one's gonna play him anymore. They're just gonna not play support Malzahar. But the people who wanted to play mid and jungle Malzahar are going to get hurt by this a lot, even when they weren't the ones who were abusing the ability. So that really does suck for them. It's sad that Riot is nerfing it this way, but like, how else are they going to do it? Like, they can either nerf the items, and that in that case you hurt every single support champion, or they can nerf the masteries, in which case you hurt every single support champion and even non-support champions, or they do this. I think that changing the mechanics is not the best way to do it. I think they should have changed the numbers, but changing the mechanics means he's just easier to play against. I don't know. It's hard for me to think of a better way to change Malzahar, so I can't like put too much blame on Riot, but there must have been a better way than this, because this is like what they did in Italy, where they removed a lot of her auto attack cancels. They're just making him like mechanically harder, which is kind of silly, I think. Not harder. They're making him mechanically clunkier. Which I think is still pretty silly. But yeah. As Singe, just by QSS versus him, because he can hold you down, but you'll be fine. Rengar, oh boy, Rengar, another lethality patch. Well, actually, Rengar has been way strong since before the lethality patch. And the reason he was ridiculously strong was because of his W battle roar. Whenever you had full stacks and you were CC'd, you could cleanse that shit by pushing your stacked up W. But that's not all. That's not all. Billy Mays here. That's not all. You would also be immune to crowd control. Immune to crowd control for 1.5 seconds afterwards. Meaning you would get out of CC and you couldn't be CC'd again. It was fucking stupid. It's so ridiculous. It's so stupid. What are they doing here? They're taking away the immunity part. They're keeping the cleanse on him. I think that change alone means that Rengar will no longer be ban material because of how fucking slippery and annoying he is. They're taking the dash distance on his Q down a little bit. Yeah, he shouldn't be able to move 200 units ahead in front of him whenever he's pushing Q, which I think is stupid. And they're taking his R duration down, just his stealth duration and his movement speed duration, which is good. I think it does definitely last too long. It kind of forces him to make a better decision with his ultimate, which is good. It just honestly straight up lasts way too long, so this is a good change. As far as top lane Rengar goes, they will never take teleport. Top lane Rengar always takes ignite or exhaust, so just be aware of that. Don't get all in early. And at level 6, top lane Rengar will always roam bottom, so make sure you ping your bot lane back at level 6, because they will leave lane, and whenever they do, just push the tower, push the wave hard, make them lose CS for it. Tristana, not much to say here. They're taking her Q duration from 5 to 7, helps her late game a little bit. This helps her a lot overall because it's her main ability to buff her damage. Yeah, not much to say here. I wish Tristana was played more. I don't think this will make her be played more. She needs other stuff, but honestly, this is a fine place to start. So I'm glad that they're giving her something. Vi So they did nerf Courage of the Colossus, right? They nerfed it for the vast majority of champions. The vast majority of champions is noticeably weaker on, but Vi is not one of those because Vi also has a really easy shield on her passive. So what she does is she just like Courage like ults onto the enemy AD carry, gets Courage of the Colossus, gets her passive, and is just unkillable while she's destroying the AD carry. So instead of hitting that, because they think that she should be able to have that, right? What they're doing is they're taking her movement speed down by 5 and her base attack speed down a little bit. So what that means is her early game is just going to be a little bit weaker, but she'll still have a win condition of killing the enemy AD carry, right? Overall, I think fair changes. Her win rate is very ridiculously high right now. It's like a 56% win rate or something like that, 55 even, which is still really high. So this is good. Just a little bit of base stat nerfs. Yeah, not much to say here. It's definitely not gonna take her out of the jungle. She's still gonna be really fucking good after this. I would go so far as to say that she will still be great after this change. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Vladimir. Oh, Vladimir. Basic attacks are stronger and faster. Q deals more baseline damage. Crimson Rush bonus reduced to compensate. They're making his laning phase a little bit less shitty because his laning phase after they last nerfed him, his laning phase has been really bad. Vladimir has one of the lowest base ADs in the game at 52. I think Anivia is like 49, and then like some support champions are like 49, and then Vladimir is at like 52. So it's fair. It's a fair change. Excuse me, I'm tired. But it just makes his last hitting a little bit easier. The Q change is not the biggest deal in the world. Again, just an early game change. The Crimson Rush bonus damage for whenever he has his full Crimson Rush bar is going to be going down by 25%, so it's not the craziest thing in the world. I think pretty fair changes, just helping him a little bit early and not making him fucking ridiculous late game. This is fine. As far as top lane goes, he'll probably still be unplayed. I don't think this change will make him playable. As far as Singed goes, he's always been annoying, but all ranged AP top laners are annoying as Singed. Moving on, Zyra. Same thing with Malzahar. The two mages that abused base damages the most were Zyra and Malzahar, and they would just dumpster bot lane. They would win every bot lane 9 times out of 10 if you're a good support player. You just say you're a support player playing versus Zyra versus Janna. You just shit on her. What is she gonna do? You get her with a root and she dies. You do all in her with your AD carry. It's done. You do way too much damage for her to be able to deal with effectively. Because she doesn't have sustain. So what are they doing here? Plants don't auto-target champions on spawn if a closer enemy target exists. Q costs more mana. Okay, so imagine that you have a champion right here, okay? Then you have a minion right here. Then you have a plant that's about to spawn right here with a seed. What happens right now is if you spawn this plant, it goes over the minion and it attacks the champion. What's going to happen after this patch is that plant will ignore the champion and attack the minion. So basically Zyras will just have to be a lot more careful with how they place their seeds before they activate them to make sure that there's nothing in the way and that they're actually hitting the champions or the minions that they want to hit. They make sure that they hit their intended target. They don't auto target anymore, which I think is a really weird way to nerf her, but if that's what they want to do to her, then that's what they'll do to her. Q, Deadly Spines, mana cost going from 60 to 70. Mana cost nerf, not much to say here, just standard stuff. Alright, let's go to practice tool, whatever. Skin names, don't care. League client, don't care. Q health, don't care. Rotating game modes, really don't care. Bug fixes, okay. Warwick no longer displaces, doesn't matter. Win. Basic attack against target mark by passive and quickly attacked afterwards. Didn't deal bonus damage. Okay. Very slight Quinn buff. Gnar no longer instantly kills. Okay, yeah, whatever. Gangplank could crit structures. What the fuck? That's crazy. I guess they're fixing that. Kled's W, Violent Tendencies, no longer activates when used on plants or when Kled cancels his basic attack. Honestly, this is just a buff. This isn't even a bug fix. This should just be a quality of life buff. because it's way too easy for Kled to unfairly lose his passive. That passive is a lot of his damage because you can't activate it. It just activates itself. So this is fair. I think he's needed this. But this should be in the actual champions notes. It shouldn't be down here in bug fixes. This is like an actual big thing. And the rest of this shit is just graphical garbage. Upcoming skins, really don't care. Okay, so thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the patch notes rundown. Kind of getting to express like my view on these patch notes a little bit is fun for me. I expect more for every patch notes, at least for season 7. And I'll see you guys later. Leave a like, leave a comment if you feel so inclined. Leave a subscription. I really appreciate it. I'll see you guys later. Bye.